there, my name's Jill Tiny. I'm from Collaboration Global, and this is our podcast, Being Human, Hidden Depths. I'm going to be interviewing some of our members from Collaboration Global, and they're going to be sharing with you their extraordinary lives. Although they would probably believe they're just normal, everyday, average humans, but they are extraordinary. A bit like you and me. We all have our story to tell. We've all been through difficult times, and we've come out the other end having learned an extraordinary amount about ourselves that we can share with others. So I think you'll find lots of things that will resonate with where you've been in your journey as well. I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Hello and welcome to Being Human, Hidden Depths. My name is Jill Tiny. I look after the Collaboration Global community, and I'm delighted to say one of our newest members is with us today, Mr. Al Tepper. Welcome, Al. Lovely to have you here.
Thank you so much, Jill. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, interestingly, we knew about each other before we actually spoke to each other. And our reputations went before us. And I was a little bit concerned in the beginning when oh no, Jill Tiny. I'm like, well, what's he heard? What's going on? So can I ask you, you were one of the few members, and it happened about 4 or 5 times where people have heard about Collaboration Global and they've gone, I'm in, I'm there, I get what you're talking about. What was it that was the nub that got you into the room?
It's a fascinating story because actually it goes further deeper. I think that what converted me was a number of people telling me to speak to you because you're an amazing human, and that I would love you, and I would get you, and I would just the minute I met you. And so I looked at Collaboration Global, and I was 50-50. I didn't know enough. And then I met you, and I think it was probably 15 seconds into the call where it was like, I'm in, because your energy is instantaneously recognizable to people with a like mind. And I operate very much so in that world. Yeah. And as a marketeer, it's all about empathy, right? So, and feeling. So I'm in because you made me feel great and welcome and loved and like I would benefit from it. I didn't feel for a minute you were trying to, flog a timeshare, and I think there's nothing nefarious or dodgy to it, right? So your intention was honest and straight up and collaborative and constructive, and it was just obvious the minute I met you. So I'm in.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That's beautiful feedback. I'm going to keep that forever. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's a great testimonial, isn't it?
Just cut that bit out and send it off to lots of
Absolutely.
People. So for me, I sort of, the first time I actually connected with you was on one of your webinars. So I'm in the audience, and you've probably seen the name come up, but and I was watching you do your thing. And what I loved about you immediately, or exactly the same, lots of people have told me, oh, Al Tepper, amazing guy, you should talk to Al. I need to get you two together. Yeah. One day we'll do it. So I went on the webinar, and it was about marketing. And you know what, Al, I've been on my fair share of marketing webinars. You do, don't you? When you've been in business 30 years, you do the rounds. And I've done the rounds. And what I loved about yours is I didn't just go on and go, interesting, bye. But I went on and I was like, oh, wow, this is good. And hang on, you went bang, 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 value, 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 value. And it was like, I couldn't stop writing. Now, this was stuff that either I knew already or I should have known, or I knew and I wasn't doing. And it was like, wow, it was so refreshing. So from that moment on, I'm like, yes, I want to get in touch with you. And you just said, how can I help? And I went, let's think about this. I have a book coming out. How can he help? Maybe he can help me with the marketing. And you went, let's have a chat. And you were just willing to give me your all at that point. And it was just so refreshing that there wasn't so here's my prices, and this is what I charge for this, and this is what I charge for that. There was none of that rubbish. I nearly swore. It was just heartfelt giving. And that's when I'm thinking, oh my goodness, to have him in our community, another heart, another great mindset that's a heart set first and foremost, with such wisdom and compassion, but also very successful at what you do. I haven't heard anybody say anything bad about you from the point of view that, well, yeah, he's okay. Everyone was like, oh my God. It was this huge, overwhelming bloody good at what he does. Now, I don't hear that very often from marketing people. So the fact that you said you were in, I was like, oh, the universe is in my alignment today, and it's just all come together at once. The second thing is, when we did have our conversation, you and I went off at a tangent about 1 trillion times.
Yes.
Talking about the planet and the state of the world and politics and COP26 and the environment and so many things that were passionate for both of us. We were definitely on the same page, which was great.
Absolutely.
So I want to stop for a second and just take Al, who I don't really know yet, apart from this massive, amazing reputation you have. Can I take you back to the 8-year-old Al?
Oh,
when
yes,
when you believed that the world, anything was possible. You know, I want to be the best footballer in the world. I can do that. I want to be the best marketing person in the world. I can do that. I want to be the. What was your childhood like, and what was your dream then? Back that 8-year-old, what did you really want to do with your life at that point? We all have that moment of like, I'd love to. What was your thing?
Well, we can need more than one podcast, I reckon. First of all, thank you for the kind things you said as well. I'm sure there is someone out there who thinks I'm rubbish, and I'm perfectly accepting of that, because you can't please everybody.
Yeah, that's true.
And even Mother Teresa had enemies. So I mean, if she's got enemies, what chance for the rest of us?
Yeah.
And I think what attracts people like you and I together is that we're not coming at it from a sort of narcissistic people-pleasing perspective. We just really love helping people because it feels really nice to help people. And the alternative for me, bringing back to my earlier years, I didn't feel very helped. I loved, and I was loved by my parents immensely. There was no question. But I wasn't grown. I had to grow myself. I didn't have enlightened PhD parents or masters, educated parents who had read about parenting and understood the need to be this and that. There was none of that. They were totally winging it. And so I was brought up in environments where I was totally loved, but totally winging it. Yeah. And so what I wanted to be when I was 8, I wanted to be in friendly waters. I just wanted everyone around me to be okay. And the flip side of that is, because horrible waters are not fun to be in. And when you're 8, I always joke about this, and I'm not trying to trigger anyone, and I'm not trying to self-shame, but the fact of the matter is, I'm born on August 25th. So when I was a kid, I was the youngest, shortest, and chubbiest. Oh. So I got, my fair share of being torn into regularly. And so when I could find peace, I was very grateful for that peace. Now, often I was a disturber of the peace, because anyone who's ever spoken to me or met me knows I'm not a shy, retiring violet at the back of the room waiting to be asked to contribute. I'm like a wrecking ball. She wrote that song for me, like a wrecking ball, but in a positive way.
Yeah, I love it.
And so at that age, I was very garrulous. I was very chatty. I was very talkative. I was very inquisitive. I was really curious about everything. I remember asking my dad questions, and oh my God, endless. And I know all kids do that, but I was trying to refashion the world because nobody had fashioned it for me, and I wanted it to be a peaceful one. So what I wanted to be more than anything, I don't think I had a profession in mind, but from a soul profession rather than a commercial profession. From a soul objective, didn't know anything about souls at the time, but from a soul perspective, what I wanted to be was happy and make people happy. That's all I really wanted. Because when you're in that place where people are not taking energy from you unfairly, that's the only conditions under which you can grow. You can't grow. Now, there are people I know who would say no one's actually taking anything from you. But when you're a child, it certainly feels like people are taking energy from you, shutting you down, telling you to be quiet, do what you're told. I was horrible at school. I hated school. School was an absolute disaster. I was a caged leopard waiting to get out in school. Failed school miserably, hated school, literally got nothing. The only thing I got out of school was a few historical facts and how terrible school is, and how horrible people can be. And that's fine. And it's not a sympathy play. It's just going back and understanding how I was how I was built. And then so I failed out of school. I got 5 GCSEs, I think a B, a C, a D, an E, and an F. I mean, unremarkable. And I remember coming up with an alternative. I was studying I think the AS level after I think I got a B in maths. And so, and I didn't study for it. It was effortless for me. What I achieved, I did with no work. I just showed up, did the exam, got a B. And so I had promise. And I remember working out an alternative solution to resolving quadratic equations, which for all of you who will remember the hell of quadratic equations in calculus. And I worked out in the car one day. I remember working out in the mist. You know, you sort of scratch your finger and your mum tells you stop doing that in the window. And I worked out a different proof. And I told my maths teacher, and they said, well, forget about that. It's not on the curriculum. And I thought, what do you mean it's not on the curriculum? I don't want to be on the curriculum then, because that's much more interesting to me, working stuff out, solving problems. And so I left school with no qualifications and no future.
How old were you when you left?
17, 18, I think, probably. I'd had a very disrupted teenage years. I came from, my father was a refugee to this country and had suffered severe trauma as a child, had a very broken life himself. And my mum was brought up in South Africa by a maid, and, you know, not totally by a maid, but that's how she recants it. And she was bright and intelligent, but again, wasn't particularly educated. So I had 2 parents who loved me, but didn't know how to raise me. And I left school wondering what I was going to do with my life. Had no idea. Went to work in Blockbuster Video, of all places.
Oh, where have I heard that before? Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Where we've got all this energy and this thirst for knowledge, and yet the people around us are like, no, sit down, don't make a noise, just do as you're told. You can't share your homework because that's called copying and that's cheating. It's not collaborating at all. You know, just do as you're told and stop making a noise and getting in my way. And it's almost like the Victorian era when we were kids, and you're a little bit younger than me, a few years younger than me, was still around of be seen and not heard, wasn't it? Kids, when, you know, you went, your mum and dad went to the pub and you'd be sitting in the car with a bag of crisps and a lemonade if you were lucky. And
you weren't really allowed to have a life as a child. I don't think you were alive. You were alive when adults told you were alive. And so you lived in this kind of nether state of be quiet, the adults are talking. Well, I mean, you know, it's no wonder we've got the world we've got, because we brought up hundreds and thousands of generations over the last hundreds of thousands of years of deeply traumatized people. And most people, and some people listening to this will say, I'm not traumatized. You know, it's not all no, we are. We absolutely are. And if you want to disagree, that's totally fine. Go and read everything that Brené Brown has said. Go and read everything that Gabor Mate has said. And, you know, it's all trauma.
But it's understandable that happened when you consider that our parents and their parents and their parents had all gone through world wars. And then everybody went, no, don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. And they buttoned it down and survived the life that they had fought and won. And that had to have had an impact on their children and their children's children.
And it's not their fault either. No, and it's not their fault. They're a victim of circumstance, and you know, and let's give it even greater context. It wasn't anyone's fault, because 500,000 years ago, when we were in a cave, and my ancestors were there, and your ancestors were there, and somebody else's ancestors were there, and there was a saber-toothed tiger outside the cave. The smart money was on staying in the bloody cave. The stupid money was like, oh, look at that furry tiger, I'm going to stroke it. Well, they weren't risk averse. They weren't anxiety fueled. So they went out the cave and petted the saber-toothed tiger. Well, you know, their ancestors their progeny aren't here today because of it. And we are the product and offspring of hundreds of thousands of years of people who tended towards anxiety because that was the best survival strategy if you're a human being. We're not gifted with speed or strength. We can't beat up gorillas. We can't outrun jaguars. Get in the cave, back of the cave, be as quiet as you can. Don't say anything. Everyone shut up, and maybe we'll live till tomorrow. Well, hundreds of thousands of years of evolution mean that we are basically Homo anxietus. Never mind Homo sapiens. We are the anxious. Yeah. And so now you think about our parents. What chance did they have of not being traumatized, even if they didn't have a world war going around them? And they did. And there are lots of people around the world who have even more, horrific stuff going on around them. So
at this very moment, and it's hard to equate, isn't it? We're sitting in the Western world, and with a wonderful. I went without electricity for a whole day on Saturday, 12 midnight till.
It's amazing, isn't it?
I didn't do it by choice. And within about an hour of waking up, realizing what was going on, our phones ran out of juice. So it's no social media, and it was a wonderful day. It was brilliant. Okay, I got a bit chilly in the evening. Fair enough.
You put on another sweater though, can't you?
We just got the duvet down. It was fine. We worked on it, but it is coming back to the bare essentials, and I think that's what's the Western world, or the world at large, are looking to make life more convenient, and they are making life too easy, and that's creating health problems. So you can flick the switch and your TV changes channel, or you can just yell out to Alexa and she'll turn the heating up for you while you sit on your sofa again and not get any movement or exercise. All of these things, like if we all had to cut our grass in the garden with a manual lawnmower, that would be half the calories used for that day. But no, we have to have electric, or we have petrol, we use all the fuel up. I'm getting on my soapbox now. The point I'm trying to make is that as society has moved on, so I was reading about spiral dynamics with Claire Graves and Don Beck, and they're saying that throughout history we have gone through this spiral, this upgoing spiral of movement of a society's consciousness, and we all lean into this consciousness. And in the beginning it was about survival, as you've just demonstrated, all those people in the caves. And then as time's gone on, it's been through the lords and the ladies. I'm in charge, this is my land, you do as I do because you're mine, serfdom, slavery. Then we've got religion, which has done quite a bit of damage. I'm not saying faith has done the damage, it's the religion and the man.
Absolutely.
And we come out of that religion, and then we go into consumerism. So even the 1980s, you look back at the Thatcher era, it's buy all the time, the Wall Street guys. And from there, we're coming out now into what's known, every area that they've got has got a different color. And we're coming into the teal layer of this massive spiral that's going on. And it's about self-organizing organizations, because we now have the technology that is not just emerging. These guys are talking about it in the 60s, right? So they were talking about emerging technologies that would support it. But now we're here and we're living it now, where the Me Too movement, the Extinction Rebellion, it's, who's the guy in charge of Extinction Rebellion? There's not just one person. It's not a leader. It's not like a military where there are, this person's in charge of that person who's in charge of that person. It's everyone is organizing for the benefit of the movement and what's going on. And everything kind of comes in waves. And that's why I think governments that were started however many years ago, 700, 800 years ago, are struggling because they're trying to play the popularity vote rather than look at the problems and try and find the solutions for the problems.
Yeah.
So I don't know where I'm going with that, but my roundabout question.
Well, I was just going to jump in and say, we've got a politics of identity, and we've got a politics of popularity because we allow it, and that's because we are totally wedded and locked into convenience culture, instant gratification. So yes, we can be more aware. Yes, we could vote for better people, and I'm not talking on all sides, right? We could vote for better, but that requires an awful lot of work. And I'm a bit tired. It's the end of the day and I want to go and watch my TV show. And so the problem with humanity, part of the beauty of humanity, there's a famous book, I think it was Hermann Hesse's The Glass Bead Game, that discovered that the function of death is love. So the function of the fact that we only live a short period of time is that we love. Because if we lived for 1,000 years, we wouldn't love, because we'd be living forever. So the fact that things are very, very temporary and transient is what allows us to generate this energetic vibration of love towards things and people. But the problem with that is we can't live in a long enough time scale to see the bigger spiral picture, to see what's really going on. And so we rely on politicians. And of course, that is completely allowing the fox to, secure the hen house. And so they can just move the goalposts. They could do whatever they like. And 1984, George Orwell's 1984 talks about that in terms of newspeak. You can literally go and edit history, and they are editing history. And I don't wish to start a debate specifically about the legitimacy of whether a statue should be removed or not, because it depends on the statue. But the reality is, we're trying to change something that's happened in the past. Whether we're doing it for the right reason or the wrong reason, we're changing the wrong things. We should be focused on changing the politics of today. And we're so obsessed with changing the politics of yesterday. And that's what's going wrong. We can't even catch up to yesterday. We've got no chance in the present of managing the dynamic of a society's movement through that larger macro picture. It's almost, is it possible? Don't know. With our current minds, not sure. Maybe technology is leveraging that and changing the dynamic there massively. So I agree with what you say. Anyway,
we have the opportunity to utilize technology for good, but at the moment, too many people are harnessing it for the wrong reasons. I mean, if you look at any piece of media, it's shock and awe. It's like they think that's the only way they can get their readers and their viewers to get engaged with it, is to give them shock news. I mean, any of these tabloid magazines that are out there, you can look at the front page and know that that's nothing to do with the story that's inside. It's just something to grab your attention. And
because they need to sell papers.
Yeah, but there's other ways of selling papers, and it's this whole, I think there is because of the COVID and because of the pandemic, I think there is this change now in the way people are thinking, is that they don't want all the bad news. They don't want all the horror. They want some good stories. They want to know that humanity in the majority are good. And we've seen that with the NHS, with the people that have helped us over the whole pandemic period. We know ultimately that 99% of the population are amazing and great, and we just need to kind of move around. Interestingly, we did a Clubhouse session today on bullying, and it was so popular that we had to do 2 weeks. And something like 93% of, there was a survey done on LinkedIn, 93% of the respondents of a survey had been in or were currently in a toxic work situation. And I think more and more people are understanding that this isn't good enough. So you imagine all the fallout of that, the mental health, the physical ill health, of all of those things that are going on. So where you stand, I mean, for me, Collaboration Global is part of a solution. It's not the only solution, but it's part of a solution, bringing people together that are light-hearted. Where you stand in your role as a marketeer, do you see a change and a transfer of how you flog stuff, how you sell things? I mean, only 10 years ago, I was being told it's just a numbers game. The more people you connect with, the more people you do, percentage is going to buy, so many people. And now I'm like, I don't like that. That doesn't feel right for me. I want it to be about the people that I'm engaging and selling to or buying from. How have you seen it change since you started out, however many years ago?
That's a great question, and I do think it's changed dramatically. And I speak to this. I'm actually really, I don't know when this is going out, but I've been asked to speak at the National Business Show in late November, and I'm speaking on exactly this point. I call it the broken heart of marketing, because what marketing isn't is misunderstood by most people. If I ask people to define marketing, I don't know that they get it quite the way I would define it. For me, marketing is about the conversation you're having with people who are or could be a customer. And when I say conversation, I mean any communication, the invoice you're sending out, the email, the gift, the piece of social media, a brochure, a video they see, they're sat next to you on the train whilst you're on the phone and you mention your brand name. That's a conversation that has a marketing impact, and it's backfired on people, And so I think the challenge with marketing is what's changed is not it's actually it's a reversion. It's not a revision. So what's changed is we're reverting to how things are, because things were revised to be something different. What do I mean by that? Before 1996, the internet was nothing really. It was, it was a tool invented by DARPA, the American Defense Research Division, and it was minimal in scope and scale. It did what it needed to do, and then Tim Berners-Lee came along, and science got involved and took over and created, effectively what we now know as the World Wide Web. But the internet existed before the web. FTP, if you're old enough to remember, you could FTP places, you could go lots of places on the internet. But the problem was there was no money to fund it. And so the early days of the internet, again, if you were around, you will remember that the only money that was being plowed into the internet in the early days, the only people who were doing anything meaningful, the joke used to be that it was porn and gambling, because the only way they could make money in return was in those sorts of industries. So the amount of money they had to invest to do stuff was so intense. And so this entire medium was born from a place of negative intention, not from Tim Berners-Lee. He invented it beautifully with a very positive intention, but then it wasn't evolved by positive intention. It was evolved by commercial intention, which at best is amoral. And so what we've had 25 years of being told exactly what you've been told. It's all about the numbers. Well, when did people stop buying from people? So now we have a revision back to what is true. People buy from people. And so now your instinct, your gut feel says to you, that doesn't feel right. I don't want to treat people like cattle. I don't want to, I am not a number. I am a free man. We've had it through our culture through millennia, right? And so now what's happening is, we've had the agrarian revolution, and we've had the industrial revolution, and now what we're having is a humanization revolution. And this has been going on for about almost 20 years, actually, as long as the internet. It's all happening so fast that the seed of its own destruction was sown at the same time as it was born. What do I mean? There's a fantastic book called The Clue Train Manifesto, written in 1998, 99, not even this millennium. It's that old. And it was a collection of 95 theses about how the internet was going to change business. And the first thesis is 3 words. And when I heard it, when I heard it for the first time, it knocked me for about 6 months. I couldn't even get to thesis 2 because it was so revolutionary. And it was simply, markets are conversations.
There you go. Yeah.
That's it. Forget the numbers. I don't give a toss about the numbers. What I care about is people and conversations. Who am I talking to? What am I talking to them about? Do they want to talk to me? What do they want to talk about? What are we going to talk about? How can I serve and love them through that conversation? How can I give them what they need? Because a marketplace is a conversation. And that flies against all of the data and analytics. Everyone can quote at me. And I feel very successful at what I do. Could always be more successful, but I feel like a success, and people tell me I'm a success, so I must be. I feel all right. So on that basis, given that I'm just interested in organic conversations with people, all we have to do is revert to that state and remember that it's people that matter. And then marketing is really easy, actually, isn't it? Because then you think, well, if my marketplace is a conversation, where is the conversation taking place? Who's the conversation between them? What are they talking about? Because if I rock up into that conversation and just start selling, I'm going to look like an idiot. I mean, imagine going to a dinner party. I always say this to clients when they always say, I don't know how to respond now. What should I say? And I say, you're at a dinner party. What would you say if someone said that to you at a dinner party? Yeah. But because there's a screen, people kind of lose their ability to be humans. We all know how to have conversations. Even introverted people who aren't very good at conversation necessarily know how to have conversations. Hi, how are you? I'm fine. How are you? Yeah, I'm all right. What's going on? Oh, not much. I've been doing this. And what do you do for a living? I'm in marketing. Oh, that's interesting. How do you find it? It's just a
Yeah,
normal conversation. It's
yeah.
not buy my book or,
Well,
you know.
it always bugs me when people go, oh, I can't do sales. I'm rubbish at sales. I'm not very good at sales. And I said, can you help people? They were, yeah, I can help people. I said, well, that's kind of sales. That's all it is if you see
Well,
someone in front of you and what you do is how you can help them, the fact they give you some money for it is a bonus, really. But if you can help them, you go and help them.
and the biggest sales secret of all, based on what you just said, is if you were as good at sales as you are about not being good at sales, you'd be brilliant at sales, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Because it's a bit of a mind trip.
Oh,
You're happily, oh, I'm terrible at this. I'm terrible at this. I'm terrible at this. Say it more. Keep saying it, because you're definitely going to get better if you keep saying you're not good at it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're all fine at everything. We can all do. Humans are amazing. We've got, instances throughout history of humans performing phenomenal feats of strength when their child was trapped under a car, and jumping and doing stuff and finding the strength and the humility to accomplish anything. We've been to the moon. We're going to, well, I'm not trying to start controversy. We've been to the moon. We've been to Mars. We've been to the base of the oceans. We've been inside our own brains. We can do remote control brain surgery, and you don't think you can do something. Wow.
Exactly. Get a grip.
Get on it, learn it. You might have to learn something. Get on it. There's nothing we can't do. It just doesn't exist.
And this is the thing at the moment. I think so many people have been taught something as a young child, that gullible 8-year-old, and they believe it forever. And it's like, no, that person was probably wrong. It's like when the music teacher says you're not allowed to sing in the choir because you can't sing, so you're allowed to mime the words, and they think forever they can't sing. Like, no, that they've taken away the joy of singing, even if it's not perfectly in tune. Have fun singing, enjoy. Same as being an artist. Oh no, you can't draw, you can't paint because the teacher said so. Actually, if I'm doing it in a different style to what you've been used to, it doesn't mean to say it's wrong. There's no right or wrong. This is what I love about our community and the space we're in. There's no right or wrong about anything. It's like,
no,
there's questions and there's solutions and there's, I don't understand that, tell me more. But there's no like, that's ridiculous, why would you do that, that's stupid. We don't have the ego.
No, and I'm not trying to interrupt, but I'm so excited about what I want to say. But there's no absolute truth that was ever created or defined by a human being. The only absolutes that exist in the universe are outside of us. The speed of light, we believe, is a constant. The fact that I love my dad I don't need to prove it. It's an absolute. Of course I love my dad. The reality is we believe, and this is our collective insanity, we believe we're the biggest and best thing in the universe. And, we thought Galileo was the end of, I can't remember the term, is it heliocentrism, where we believe that the sun was the center of the universe? I might have got that wrong. Someone will correct me.
Yeah.
But the point is, we still believe we're the center of the universe. Nothing's changed. And then we wonder why we have, and again, not meaning to trigger people, but oppressive, structured, organized, human-invented, most often male-invented religious organizations. Nothing to do with spirituality or faith. But of course, that what they're keen on is doctrine, and what you've just talked about is doctrine. When I'm 8 and my dad says I can't do something, that's doctrine. And as human beings, Theodore Adorno, after World War II, wrote an amazing book called The Authoritarian Personality. We are terribly easily domesticated and managed and controlled and run, and World War II certainly showed us that. The Milgram experiments showed us that. The power of a lab coat to compel someone to take something negative and do it somewhere. There's ample evidence that we are not as awesome as we think we are when it comes to freedom and independence of thought. And that there lies the problem. Government doesn't want us to think independently. Religion doesn't want us to think independently. Our parents don't want us to think independently, but they do now, because parents today are smart enough to understand that actually, no, let your kids be as creative and out there as possible. Doesn't matter. Forget it. Because the bottom line is, we now value, and I think we've reached this point in society where we now truly value creativity and disruption, and that bodes really well. And that's why And we've got to be careful as an older generation. That's why we're all moaning about millennials and the woke generation. But at least, and you may disagree with me, but at least they're exhibiting some bloody thought. Because when I was their age, I wasn't thinking about anything apart from the wrestling on a Saturday morning. Who's Big Daddy going to beat Giant Haystacks? These kids are political. They might be wrong, and you might disagree with them, and you might think they're being manipulated. But at least they're using their brain cells. How refreshing. My son is going to be 16. He's trying to read Homer's Iliad at the moment and failing, but he's trying. I know. I haven't even read it. I mean, it's a donker of a book. And he's talking to me about various deep political. He's 15. I wasn't doing that stuff till I was in my mid-20s. And let me tell you, it took a lot of mind-bending substances to get me through it as well. Because in university, studying politics and philosophy, I didn't get there on my own. And he's doing it age 15, just cruising. And that's what's happening. And as adults, we have to embrace and encourage that, because they are going to save the world. Sometimes we think not, but they really are, because they will put people first. They put each other first, much more than our generations ever did.
Yes, our generation were taught to watch your back, look after yourself. You know, there's only number one.
And judge. Oh, if they're different, no, they're different. Oh, well, different whatever skin. A different color skin, different sexuality, different religion, different gender, whatever. We've been taught to segregate and separate because there's the powers that be, and I'm not mad conspiracy theorist, but the governing forces of our universe, which typically are where power is centralized, but whoever you want that to be is up to you. They absolutely have been running a divide and conquer strategy from the beginning of time. And if you speak to anyone who studied Indian nationalism and looking at the impact of the British Empire on India, what the British did was go in and divide and conquer. That's why you've got Pakistan and India, because I have many friends who have explained to me that pre-empire religions in India got along a lot better than they did after the British Empire. How isn't that funny? Isn't that interesting? I wonder why. So we've got to let kids collaborate, and maybe there needs to be a global youth wing. That's an interesting idea.
You've just an idea.
Yes, sorry. I know that's gonna take out a weekend or two. But the point is, as adults, we have to provide and create the structures that are going to allow kids and permission them. Not that they need our permission, but give them the support, be their allies in doing crazy stuff, thinking crazy stuff, coming up with crazy stuff.
When you see the likes of Greta Thunberg and how her dad supports her in everything that she's done, it is that kind of like, if you've had an idea, parents should be there going, okay, well, so what should we do about it? Well, how do you want me to help you? What can we do? And just kind of be there for the kids. I always remember when my girls were younger, there was nothing that they couldn't do. And I felt to myself, if I restricted myself, they would look at me and go, oh, so mum didn't do it, so I'm not going to do it. So if I go, right, I'm going to write a book, and they're like, oh, are you going to write a book? Yeah, you could write a book one day. Could I? Yes, of course you could. So it's always like, if I stretch myself, they're going to stretch themselves. And I remember my eldest came to me when she was 16, 17 and said, me and a couple of friends want to put on a production at school. Okay. And we want to write it. Oh, good for you. And we want to direct it. Yeah. And we're going to raise funds for it. And we want to put it on for a whole week. And we want to raise money for the orphanage in Romania. Do you think we can? And I'm like, oh my God, don't make me help you. Just so much to do there. And they had like a 6-week window, and they turned it into a pantomime, and they did it, and they raised over £2,000. They walked up and down the high street, getting shops to sponsor them. They got friends of friends, they got me painting the backdrop, everything. And there were kids from year 7 to year 13 that were in it, and they wrote it. And they actually there was one teacher in charge of looking after all of them. I felt so sorry for that teacher. But we were there every weekend for like 2 months getting it all sorted. And as I say, they directed, they wrote it. It was hilarious. And I was so proud. And I'm like, you can do anything you want, my darling, whatever you want. But the fact they came to me and said, do you think we can? I said, what, do you think you're going to get permission, or do you think you're able? No, do you think we're able to? Of course you're able to. My head was going, oh
who's going to stop you? Who's going to stop you? Yeah, who's going to say no?
My heart was going, yeah, whatever you need. Come on, let's do this. And we rallied.
It's interesting, but what made that a success was their passion and energy. And people gravitate to passion and energy. And most importantly, most importantly, when it comes down to it, it's all about passion and energy. And anyone who takes passion and energy, anyone who deflates passion or takes energy away from a child who's enthusiastic about something should go to hell immediately, because that child has bravely said, I want to talk about that. I want to do this. Never tell a child shut up. Ask them more questions. Bring them in, because that's what we're fighting against. Millennia of that BS. Be quiet. What do you know? You're a kid. You can't have an opinion. You don't know anything. Well, maybe they might just come up with a brand new way of doing it because they haven't figured out. They don't know what they're doing yet. And intuition counts for a lot there. And that brings me to one of my favorite quotes. William Butler Yeats, The Second Coming. I think it's end of the first stanza. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. And what your daughter did there was flip the script. She wasn't the best lacking all conviction. She was the best, and she was full of passion and intensity. And that's what we need to do. We need to flip the script. The best need to be full of passion and intensity, and the worst need to lack all conviction. They need to go away and be quiet and work out what they're good at, because they're the bad people. They're the people stealing energy. They're the people ghosting people, being passive aggressive, being negative, tearing it down. You know, we've all got those friends. Oh no, you can't do that. Oh, you shouldn't do that. These people are they are in hell. Actually, they can't go to hell. They're in hell because the world they live in is a pained one, and so they have to spread their pain. And that's why we've got to create an environment where everyone can heal and feel better. And by giving people energy, by loving them anyway, as my very good friend, who some of you will know, I'm sure, Vanessa Louise Moore would say, by loving them anyway, they have a chance to heal. Because nobody, you know, if somebody's having a bad day and you're nice to them, they're not going to punch you in the face, are they? Because you're probably the only person being nice to them.
Yeah.
They're going to relate to that kindness. You know, someone did something really kind for me today. I was having a bit of a morning. Someone did really something like outrageously kind. I didn't expect it. Actually brought tears to my eyes. I was that blown away. Like, super kind. No value in it for them. They were just being kind to me. It changed my mood immediately.
Yeah. I remember the story of Scarlett Moffat. Do you remember the celebrity, TV celebrity, who she was on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here yonks ago, and she won the title, so she was the Queen of the Jungle.
Right.
And as she came out from the jungle, apparently the Twitter sphere got a bit fierce, and she was trolled badly, and to the extent that it carried on going, and every job that she got afterwards, there was this deluge of hate coming in her direction, to the extent that one day it got so bad, and she didn't feel she could tell her friends and family because she didn't want to let them down, and because she's supposed to be, she said, on paper I was having my best life. But in my world it was disaster because everyone was being so horrible to me on Twitter. So she literally got to the extent that she needed to call the Samaritans and ask for help because she thought she was going to take her own life. And now, fast forward a year, 2 years later, she said that not only did the Samaritans help her, saved her, and continued to support her, she then volunteered to be a Samaritan herself, and she went through all the training. Now she's an ambassador. And she was saying that now if anybody trolls her for whatever reason, her first reaction is to reach out and go, can I help in any way?
You're right.
Here's the phone number of the Samaritans. And she said in doing that, she said, I would say 99% of the people come back to me and go, thank you so much. That's so kind of you. I really am having a bit of a bad time. And they will take the information and they will go and try and help themselves, or ring the Samaritans and get help. And it's like, if everybody did that, every time somebody is like a bit of a dick, you know, and just like, oh, what's your problem? You know, and it's not like, what's your problem? It's like, oh, are you okay? What's wrong? And I think Roman Kemp did a documentary about male suicide is at its greatest it's ever been for 18 to 32-year-olds or something. It's a really high number. And he said the best thing anyone can do is when you say to your mate, hi, how you doing? And they go, oh, fine. Ask them again. Because the first one, you can keep it going. I'm fine. But the second one, you can't.
Catches you. Yeah, our mutual friend Neil advocates that an awful lot, and I agree. And that kindness, again, that's a great example of it, isn't it? Why would a troll be that hateful? What must their reality be like? I feel nothing but sorrow for them.
Yeah.
Because to be that kind of person who would tear someone down, especially people you don't know, what a sad existence you must be living to be that full of hate for someone you don't even know. And when you do reach out to people who are in pain with love, you very rarely get more pain back, because what happens is the reality is they're in that place because no one's being nice to them. So when you start being nice to them, they don't know how to react. They're like, and they break. They because they're used to negative, and that fuels the negative. So hurt people, as Vanessa says all the time.
I remember saying to my daughter, my youngest, when she was in uni, somebody was being rather mean to her on a spectacular level, and I said, right, you be so nice to her. I said, you're a little actress, do this for me. You be so nice to her, your ears bleed. All right, you just bomb her with love as much as you possibly can. And she did. I said, and also you go out and you find new friends. Go get more friends. She's not the most important person in the room. You go and find other friends. And then 3 years later, at the end of uni, this girl came up to her and said, can we go for coffee? Sat down, had a conversation, said, I'm so sorry I did that to you. It's the worst thing in the world. I don't know why, but I think I was jealous.
Yeah.
It took her a long time to say sorry, but she got there in the end.
Oh, the fact she got there at all is unbelievable. I mean, it's incredibly enlightened on her part. 3 years seems like a long time, but most people live their life never solving any of this stuff. Yeah. They just stay in that same pattern and cycle because it's easier. It's just, it's easier. And again, I don't wish to trigger anyone, but how many people do we all know who we know they love sitting in pain because it gives them something to whinge about, right? No offense to anyone who's in pain, but some people in pain love to stay there.
Picking the scab, don't they?
They are absolutely. We've all got people in the world who are always talking about getting ill, and aren't they the ones who get ill the most? Isn't that funny? Isn't that odd? It's almost like there's some kind of vibrational reality and intention-based, structure to the universe. I don't know, what a crazy idea.
Some people believe that, and that's absolutely. It's there's sometimes you don't have to understand something to know if it works or not. It's like electricity. We all expect it to come out the plug, except on certain days when there's a power cut, but you don't know how it actually gets there. Roughly, you've got an idea. There's a generating power station somewhere, but you couldn't actually recreate it yourself necessarily.
Even Einstein famous. Sorry, even what were you saying?
No, go on. That was it. It comes out. The electricity comes out. But Einstein said that. Go on. What was the quote?
Einstein famously said, not all things that are measurable are worth measuring, and not all things that are worth measuring are measurable. And again, it comes back to the love of our father. There's a great film by Carl Sagan, written by Carl Sagan, called Contact, where Jodie Foster and Matthew McConaughey are talking. And he's the man of God, and she's the woman of science, and she believes in data. It's all data. And they're at the White House for something, and he's having a discussion. I have to watch the film again now because it's one of my favorite films, along with Interstellar. And he said, and she says, yeah, but you need proof. And he said, you can't prove everything. And she said, you can. And he said, can you prove you loved your dad? And that's it. End of the discussion. Because of course you can't prove it. How can you prove you love someone? How can you prove anything to do with emotions and feelings and love? And the truth is you can't. So we need to get off of this kind of human egotistical dominance of data and accept that we are all deeply, uniquely flawed, broken, different, wonderful, amazing, lovable, kind, mad, whatever. And accept that in a world where people buy from people, if marketplaces are conversations, then let's just drop all the pretense and start having conversations with people. Let's drop all the bullshit. We don't need to put on any act. We can just be wonderfully unique, different, and ourselves, and immediately remove competition from the spectrum, and immediately be collaborative. Because we are collaborative. We've only survived because we're collaborative. We're only born because we're collaborative. We live collaboratively. The reality is only some of us choose to be reciprocal. Some of us choose to be greedy. So we have this ecosystem of people who collaborate, people who take, people who give, people who share. And the reality is, if you want to live a happier life, just learn to get along with other people. It's that simple. you know. And that's why I love Collaboration Global, because that is that real. That is a community of people who just want to get on with other people. It's not about competition.
Yeah, I mean, you've just summed it up perfectly. Thank you so much. I could not have said that better myself. Thank you so much, Al. It's been an absolute joy talking to you today. And I think at the bottom end of this conversation is basically love is at the center of everything you do. And that comes through so powerfully. And no wonder you're a success in marketing. If that is your core, that is your center of who you are and what you do. It's your being, not just something you practice and try out and see if it works. This is who you are. And it just shines through. So I'm really glad that you're in the community. I know you're going to make great inroads and support people, and they are going to come flocking around you to find out how they can help you as well. So thank you for being on the podcast. And I know this was only part one. I'm sure we're going to do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is just scratching the surface, and it was such fun to hear what you think about things and how you see things, and your depth of reading and knowledge as well. I know we've only just scratched the surface. Thank you so much. Before we go, if anybody has enjoyed this conversation and wants to get hold of you, what's the quickest way, easiest way for them to find you? 100%
LinkedIn immediately. Because first of all, my name's weird. There's not a lot. Well, if you type Al Tepper into Google, I pretty much am the first page. So you can pick if you want to connect with me on Snapchat, if you want to connect with me on TikTok, on YouTube, on WhatsApp, SMS, you can send a pigeon. So just type my name into Google, pick whatever way you want, or just type my name into LinkedIn. It'll be obvious who I am. There's not many of us there named Al Tepper, and connect. Tell me about you. You know, you're not going to get some, hi, thanks for connecting. Would you like to buy my rubbish, whatever program, people sell? I want to talk to people. So talk to me. Absolutely.
Wonderful. And just in case you're not sure, it's ALTEPPER.
Correct. Like pepper with a T at the start. That's the only T's and P's sound the same. It's been my life's frustration trying to spell my name. Someone even spelt my name OWL once. Al. They thought my name was Al Tepper. Can you believe that? Someone actually once asked me to spell Al. I mean, it's amazing. There you go.
With an L, strange.
Yeah, I just said AL, and they were like, "Oh, sorry."
I do empathise with my name as well, so I do get where you're coming from.
Indeed.
Also, if you fancy coming to meet Al on a Zoom call, hopefully he'll be at our next Collaboration Global session, which is always the last one of the month when we invite our guests along. You can find us by going to collaborationglobal.org and just scrolling down and click the box that says come to a meeting, or you can find us on Eventbrite, and as Al said, all of the usual places if you look for Collaboration Global or search for me, Jill Tiney. We'd love to invite you to a meeting, meet you face to face, and you can carry on the conversation with Al. That'd be great. Thanks for joining us today, Al, and I look forward to part 2 soon. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.